Welcome to the second part of me sharing with you, probably a little too brief, history of where I grew up and my environment, how my environment basically shaped or influenced my direction to ultimately pursue critical food geographies with emphasis on critical race theory and black feminist theory. So it is 1994, and I'm on my way to college. I had been a straight A student. My parents made it very, very clear that my brother, who was my twin, and I had to get straight A's, and that because we basically were living in an environment where we were the only black kids, we had to make an example. So that's a heavy burden, to actually make an example that, yes, black people are positive in many aspects. Wow, they can actually do well in school. And many people who were not born and raised in such an environment as non-white racialized people may not realize that, at least during my time, which is not actually that far ago, my peers, I had peers ask me, do you do well in school even though you're colored? Yes, colored. Just ignorance. They didn't realize that. So my brother and I we had to get straight A's, and we had to basically show that yes, black people do well in school. And my brother and I applied to very many colleges, and he and I ultimately we were accepted to Dartmouth College, and first to go to college in our family on my dad's side. Very, very, very awesome. And we got a very good package. And just so you can understand the climate of our household and the climate of, outside of the household, my mother had mentioned that my brother and I had been accepted to Dartmouth College with a pretty good financial aid package. And one of her coworkers at work, who was a white identified male, had said to her, they only got in because they were black. And we get this. Many people of color get this all the time. And my mother basically set him straight and said no, because they are straight A students and graduated number 3 and 4 in their class. So this is a type of climate that I had to negotiate through my formal K through 12 years. So we got to Dartmouth, and culture shock, socioeconomic class shock. So I had already been used to understanding white working class culture. I think Lebanon is a white working class, lower middle class, socioeconomic culture. But Dartmouth, this was like dynastic, upper middle class whiteness that I had never, ever, ever dreamed I would interact with. So that was a very huge culture shock to myself and my twin brother. I had a roommate who actually asked me not to wear my cornrows when her parents would come to visit during parent weekend. A white, class privilege identified straight woman actually asked me not to do that. Freshman year, my brother came into the room very excited. Wow, we got, guess what? I have good news. We got more financial aid from the college for myself, for my brother. So he needed more financial aid so he could have a better meal package because he eats so much. And then he left. And then my roommate, the same woman who had told me that she didn't want me to wear cornrows, said, "Dude, I bet they just gave him more money because he's black." And she just had this entitlement that she could actually say that to my face. So that was kind of the climate. Many instances of that happening. I'll just say that I don't really want to repeat too much of it because it's kind of difficult. But I'm just trying to establish the climate that I was in and the interactions I had with people, and how this kind of shaped more and more how I'm really interested in how being not just racialized, but your class experience, and then being part of the status quo or not, how that actually shapes how you are right now. And for me, how it actually shapes my interest still in race and gender and sexuality, those convergences within food. So Dartmouth College was interesting. I ended up actually majoring in geography, focusing on feminist geography. and that was interesting. I had a really good advisor, Professor Adrian Bailey, who was really, really excited about my thesis work, looking at what does it mean to be LGBTQ person, or queer, that's what we used at the time, queer identified female in a rural setting. So I looked at Dartmouth College and did my work there, and just did a very good job and got an award of innovative thesis for that. But I was happy to graduate and leave that environment. I also did make a lot of good friends. But so it's 1998. I graduated, and I briefly lived in New Jersey for 10 months. Did my first job there. Nothing to do with what I believed in terms of social justice. It was a job at a telecommunications company. I left after 10 months. It was just not my thing. Moved to Boston, 2000, and entered the program at Simmons College, Gender and Cultural Studies. It was just beginning. Unfortunately, I had to leave it because it just was not rigorous enough for me personally. I'm sure the program is much better 10 years later, so I'm not bashing the program, but I just didn't feel challenged enough, so I left, and it was a dot-com boom, 2000, 2001, and I decided to pursue technology. So I briefly, for 2.5 years, I did quality assurance testing for a few companies. But my heart was never really into it. I mean, it helped pay my tremendous student loan bill, but just my heart was never really into it. And I ended up applying to a program at Harvard, Educational Technologies, thinking I was still going to pursue it at the more industry level. And instead, I shifted my focus and decided I'm going to look at the race, class, gender implications, once again, of technology, not in terms of who has access to it, but how actually race, class, and gender shape one's use of technology and internet. And that's how I actually ended up doing my master's thesis, which was Cyber Territories of Whiteness, and looking at how particular participants on the veganporn.com site responded negatively to the call for papers for the Sistah vegan project. And basically, quite a few people were upset that I would even look for black females' experiences in veganism. There's a lot of hostility. So instead of actually going online and interacting with the forum, what I did was I wrote a thesis about it, and that's how I ended up getting my Harvard degree. And now there's a lot in between. But I ended up moving to California in 2007 with my husband, and decided to attend UC Davis to continue doing this work. So I feel like I really haven't given enough. I mean, I have a brief amount of time, and I just wanted to talk more to people who are just interested, like, what is this chick about, She's coming in and talking about this food and stuff, and I just want people to know that, remember, this is it's just my opinion, fused with certain texts, scholarly texts, and ways I've been formally educated to write about certain experiences with food, race, class, gender. But remember, this is just one of many ways to understand things. So don't take my word as the only way to understand the black female vegan experience. We're not a monolith. I'm a black female who also grew up in New England, who grew up in a straight heterosexual household with a twin brother, and we were we were working class, and we had land, and it was, I was born in 1976, and then there are other black female vegans who were, born upper class, maybe in Texas, maybe lesbian, so we're not a monolith, but there are convergences, where I do see thematically, many black female vegans do still point to the same things, that they are completely conscious of the fact of how their racialized experience in America has definitely influenced how they understand not just veganism, but just food and health and culture and activism. So I'm just one of these voices, and you can take it with a grain of sea salt or not. But I think it's important to try to be as transparent as possible, but without also making myself vulnerable. So I know there are a lot of people who do not agree with what I'm doing, but I can't please everyone. I will never try to. I can only do my best and hope that the transparency that I hope to provide for the audience is helpful for you to understand more of kind of what I'm about and how my present work is shaped by my past. Okay. Well, have a good evening, morning, afternoon, rest of the day. And of course, if you ever have questions, you can write me at breezeharper@gmail.com. Okay? So that's about it. And thank you for your time. And I look forward to receiving messages from people.